Today we're going to be diving into the second half of the Dressrosa arc, so everything from when Doflamingo puts the massive birdcage over the whole of Dressrosa up until the big main fight with Luffy and Doflamingo. We left off the last video at the part where Usopp stuns Sugar and then she passes out and all of the toys, yay, they become humans again, so that was really great. So if you haven't seen the first part, then I'll link the video up below. Up below? Yeah, that makes sense. You'll see it up the top there. But yeah, that's just if you can catch up. Otherwise, let's dive straight in. The second half of the arc kicks off with Doflamingo getting real serious and putting a massive birdcage over the whole of Dressrosa using the strings from his devil fruit power. And these strings are really tough. No one can get through them. If they try and walk through, then they'll just be sliced into pieces. So this whole bird cage is essentially a cage and it's trapped the whole of Dressrosa, all the people, everyone inside. This is the point in the arc where we reach most arcs where it just becomes absolute chaos. And this is mostly due to the fact that Doflamingo puts a bounty on most of the Straw Hats and some of the others. There's a bounty on Robin, Frankie, Sabo, King Riku, Kyros, Rebecca, Kinemon, Viola, Luffy, Law, and Usopp, who hilariously received the top bounty because he knocked Sugar out. So pretty much everyone except for those main characters that were at the Colosseum, they were the ones who kind of got turned back into toys because of Usopp, so now they're kind of indebted to the Straw Hats. Everyone else they're full after all those people I just mentioned. I'll briefly just go through where everyone is at this point, just to set up the massive big part of the second half. So Law, Zoro, and Luffy are now on their way to fight Doflamingo. Usopp, King Riku, and Kinemon, who actually found Kanjiro, his friend, who'd been searching for this whole time on Dressrosa, stayed on this landing that was opposite the palace. Rebecca, Bartolomeo, and Robin fly to the palace with the help of the Tontatas, and then Kyros is on his way to defeat or kill Diamante, who was the one that killed Scarlet, his wife, and Rebecca's mum. So I was really keen to see him take down Diamante. There's also the rest of them that came from the Revolutionary Army. So we got Sabo, yay, Koala, and there's the Fishman, who I don't know. I actually don't know the name. I forgot the name. But yeah, their whole plan was to stop the trading of weapons. Now I just want to go straight in and talk about Donquixote's family and their main battles. And yes, I have learned how to pronounce that family name. I still have to really think about it when I'm saying it, but I've learned how to pronounce it right at the end of the arc. First off, we have Giola, who turns anything around her into art. I don't really have much to say about Giola. Didn't really go into her backstory too much, and the Straw Hats managed to take her out pretty early on, even though she kind of makes a comeback towards the end and then is knocked out again very easily. So I don't really have much of opinion on her, but I will say that her devil fruit power is pretty interesting though. Being trapped in an art piece like the Straw Hats were when they were on the Sunny, it would actually just feel like being in a nightmare. So I do think that her devil fruit power is pretty cool. Then there's Dillinger, who is this fishman hybrid thing, who uses kicks and speed for his attacks. I actually found him pretty annoying, even from the start. I just wanted him to shut up. He kept thinking he was a lot stronger than he was, and just every time he spoke, I was like, can you just shush? I mean, I found most of the family quite annoying, but there's some that were a bit more than others. Other than him being kind of annoying, he was just a bit of a meh character. He was taken out pretty easily as well in Cavendish's Hakuba form, so he managed to take him down pretty easily. So, and also didn't get a backstory on him. He just kind of was a part of the family, even in the flashbacks. And then there's the Buffalo one, and he was also a very meh character. Didn't have much of an impact. He was basically just twirling around transportation, I guess you could call him. That was his main thing. He just transported the people. Then there's Baby 5, who can turn parts of her body into weapons. She is a bit of an interesting character. From the start, you see how she just can't say no to anyone who needs her. But now they kind of go into why. Because of this quirk of hers, she misunderstood all of Sai's threats as flirting with her. And so she fell for him pretty quickly and betrayed Doflamingo's family also very quickly. I do understand now why she acts the way that she does, because of her really sad backstory. She was abandoned by her own village and her own mum. And then when her mum said to her that she's not wanted or needed in this world, it was pretty heartbreaking to see. And then it was even more heartbreaking where she put the gun to her head when Sai said in a really like mocking, unserious way to get rid of herself. Then there's Lao Ji, who, don't get me started on Lao Ji, who was admitting that they're basically just using her because they did whatever they needed and they'll do whatever they asked. So that was like really sad. But then the whole scene turned out to be just so wholesome, with Sai just seeing through all of Baby Five's, like what she does, and she'll do what anyone asks. He saw straight through that. So it turned into like this love story. It was this really cute and romantic scene in the middle of all of these massive battles. That leads me on to Lao Ji, who is this older guy with these martial arts skills, and the fact that he just constantly was pronouncing the G and everything was annoying me so much. So I know, to your guys' surprise, I was very happy when Sai took him down and when he was just no longer in the scene. The next one is Sugar, who turns people into toys, and they don't really have a backstory of her either. So I don't really have a strong opinion of her, but she is an awful person. I think that's the one main opinion I have of her, is like she is just a downright evil person for turning all of these people into toys and making them forget their families. So if anything, yeah, I don't like her at all. Now, okay, I do have an opinion of her then. I don't like her. I will say though, her whole situation with Usopp has been very entertaining. She woke up eventually after being stunned by Usopp the first time, and she devised this plan to turn Law and Luffy into toys because she was like livid that she was stunned in the first place. But then Usopp devised this whole new plan to stun her again with Kanjuro's drawings. This was wild though. The fact that he was able to shoot the drawing in the perfect position from the distance, like it was a really long distance with Kanjuro's drawing. It shows how much he's mastered his skill and how like he truly is the sniper of the crew. But even just her reaction to Usopp in general is funny, that like his face just makes her pass out. This was actually probably a big growth moment for Usopp, because I don't think he would have been able to aim and shoot that far before. And now he can. Now we've seen how far that he can shoot, and it's just going to get better and better. But it also fed into him being like the savior that the Tontatas see, and he actually stepped into more of a leadership role, more so like he has in the past with, being strategic and deciding certain things, but he's also obviously like a bit of a coward. This time he stepped into a bit more of a leadership role, and he was delegating and devising this pretty grand plan that was pulled off in the end. Then there's Gladius, who makes things explode by making them swell up. I honestly think that his fight with Bartolomeo is my favorite, and I think that's because Bartolomeo became, I'd say, my fave character, introduced in this arc, just after finding out that he was a Straw Hat fanboy. Even all of his crew, like it was revealed right at the end, where his whole crew are just complete crazy fans of Luffy, and even his whole ship is decked out in all of this memento from the Straw Hats. And adding to this, he fought to protect Robin with everything he had, especially the moment where he sacrificed himself. So he got the barrier and placed it around him and Gladius, and then took on all of those explosive debris from Gladius's attack. Then using Luffy's pistol technique as a finishing blow. It was really special actually that he was able to do that. Next there's Pika, who controls stone and can also merge with it. His voice, it got me. Every single time he opened his mouth, I was cackling. And that I know that if I was around him, I would be dead. He would want to kill me because I would just be laughing nonstop whenever he spoke. Luffy and Zoro's reaction to his voice also just made it so much funnier. His and Zoro's fight went on for a long time. It was like so many episodes, and that's because like Pika would constantly go into different stone and he could keep fading away and keep getting away somehow. And I also think that he's the second strongest behind Dofi. Pretty sure. But Zoro was losing his patience. His new sword technique though, it's so cool, where he uses the armament haki to cover all of his swords. So they go black and they have like the purple glowing behind it. I thought that looked so cool. And then later on when the others use it, so Isho uses the same technique, and so does Kinnaman and Kanjuro. So it's like a samurai or a sword technique. It was, I really liked that one. Then there's Treble, who has to be the member that I dislike the most. I cannot stand him. Firstly, he looks like an absolute slimy creep. Like, ew, the mucus surrounding him. Oh, his personality is awful. He just thinks that he's just untouchable, and just everything about him was giving me the heebie-jeebies. And my literal eye twitched every time I heard nay, nay. Oh, Dolphy. I could not stand him. So when Law was finally, like, it takes a while to get this guy down because he is covered in mucus. Then when Law finally removed the mucus from his body, his whole body, and he revealed that he was like this slinky little man with this massive head, just like added to the heebie-jeebiness of his character. But yeah, it was great though. It was so satisfying when Law finally was able to get a shot in and take him down. It was like, I do not have to hear nay, nay again in my life, because I hear it in my sleep. I swear to God, I hear it in my dreams. There's also Diamante, who has the ability to make things super light or flexible, and is also the one who killed Rebecca's mum. He was also highly annoying because of how arrogant he was, and just constantly bringing up the facts that he killed Kyros' wife and constantly mocking Kyros. Honestly, Kyros has probably had the worst decade out of everyone. He was turned into a toy against his will. He watched his wife die in his hands, being unable to protect her, being unable to feel her warmth as she passed away, then forced to watch over his daughter without being able to reveal himself. And this is what makes this fight so satisfying, because Diamante, in all of his arrogance, thinking that he was so much stronger than Kyros, actually got defeated by Kyros. And not once did Kyros waver. He was pummeled by all of these spikes, and he stood his ground. He got up. He was going to protect Rebecca. There's no way that he was going to let Diamante get out alive. And he managed to take him down. And boy, was that a great moment. I will say at the start of the fight, I was getting quite frustrated with Rebecca's character. I felt like in the Colosseum fighting, she showed all of this bravery and strength and determination. But now in one of the most crucial moments, she was just very helpless and not really able to do anything. But after she tried to help Kyros, and then he sternly told her, no, like, don't come anywhere near this fight. I don't want you to hurt anyone. That's what your mum wanted. Like, your mum didn't want you to hurt anyone. So I'm not letting you join this fight. That made more sense as to why she didn't step in or want to battle again, because that was her mother's wishes. And also, she is a teen. She's like, 16 years old. So she's really young. Her outfit was really annoying me though. I felt like every 2 seconds they would show some sort of provocative angle of her in this tiniest little armor outfit. And I feel like, at the start you're introducing her, whatever, but it was too much. It was just too much. I really wish that they put her in stronger armor, a better, just cooler outfit than that. I'm saying that there's a lot of stuff that annoyed me, but I promise you, I enjoyed the whole second half of Dressrosa. I actually enjoyed the whole arc. Pretty much every single Donquixote family member annoyed the out of me. But the one that didn't, and the one that I really like the most, is Senor Pink. Yeah, when he was introduced, I was like, what is that? What the heck is that? What are you wearing? Why are you treating these women like that? He was definitely a character I didn't think that I would like. Here we go again. Always, every single time there's a character that I didn't think I'd like and then I end up liking. But he was just a creep, a bit of a perv, like Frankie. Then they show the flashbacks of his past and with his wife, and how his wife was in a coma, and the only moments where she would smile is when he came to the hospital bed dressed up in some form of baby outfit. And that is why he dresses up as a baby to this day, because he just wants to make his wife happy. That was really sad. That got me. I think, I cried in that part. Yeah. So because of that, I do really like Senor Pink, and I hope that he didn't die. I hope that he comes back later. I'd love to see just him and Frankie catch up and Senor Pink actually go on the side of the Straw Hats so that we can see more of him. But yeah, he had the fight with Frankie, and this was actually another one of my favorite fights. It would have to be up there in my favorite battles, because there were two just like macho men. They had such hilarious moments with the woman, and Frankie just randomly kissing the protector or commander of the toy factory. The way that he just randomly kissed her, it was like, what? What the heck? That was funny. And then, yeah, just constantly like, who is like the stronger, who is the more manly man. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed the whole fight, and it ended up being quite wholesome. Senior Pink nearly won, but Frankie just had the upper hand in the end. And when Frankie was just like, I hope that you can tell me about your life over some drinks one day. So it probably made me like, I hope that he does come back. Then obviously right at the top, we've got Doflamingo, the main leader of this whole thing. And I spoke a bit about him in part 1, but in the second part of Dressrosa, we do get to see his past more and come to understand why he is the way that he is. And on one hand, I can see how he has become so angry and what has skewed his perception in the world to become the way that he is. But on the other hand, I think that he was just born a bit of a psychopath. In the first half, we do find out that he was initially a celestial dragon, which was crazy, actually. That blew my mind. But then the second half showed a bit more as to like why he was no longer a celestial dragon. We learned that Dofi's dad took their whole family away from the celestial dragon. So they removed themselves to live amongst the humans. And because his dad wanted them to have a bit more of a humble, happy upbringing. And yeah, that's the way that he saw the world, that humans were beautiful. Dofi was at that age where he was old enough to notice things around him, of course. And then being a celestial dragon, you grow up with everything at your feet. You are above everyone. There's nothing in the world that you can't have. And you literally are stepping on people because you don't want to step on the ground. They are very high up. And so obviously becoming a human, they're not seen that way anymore. People don't give a crap. Well, they actually do, but they don't care that you were a celestial dragon because you're human now. They can do whatever they want to you. Then they show how Dofi interacts with the humans, and he's just bewildered how no one is parting for him and everyone is getting in his way. And there's just, everything is obviously different. He's no longer this god that he was once seen as up in the celestial dragon land, up in Mary Joyce. And I feel like the way that he contrasts with his brother Rosinante, and the fact that he kept treating humans like that after living amongst them, is why there's kind of like I feel as though maybe he was born a little bit of a psychopath, but it's hard to tell because he grew up in that environment, and he probably had very different experiences to Rosinante in certain ways. And yeah, but I feel like the contrast between the two, Rosinante is like this beautiful human, and then Dofi is just this evil villain, shows that, is it the environment or is it the fact that he was just born a bit evil? That's why it was quite interesting, actually. But then when they were pitched up on the houses, everyone had enough of him thinking he was better than everyone, and also the fact that they were celestial dragons and they made their lives a living hell when they were like the other celestial dragons. They just didn't like them. So when they pinned them up on the house and then started a fire and were trying to kill them in the end, that was really awful. And then I see why that would have triggered Dofi and why that made him see the world in a different light. I think that if over time he had a lot more interactions and a lot more experiences with different humans, he might have had a different opinion on things, and he might have grown out of this perception that he is a god and just seeing humans in a different way. But he just completely removed that and ignored that and refused to believe that humans were anything but the ants that you step on the ground. Leading up to that was like, I get why you're so angry and your perception is skewed, but then he shot his dad, and that's when it was like, that for sure adds to the fact that I think he was born a psychopath. Because yes, you can have these perceptions that you're a god because you're treated like that since you were a baby, but to kill your own dad, all of Dofi's backstory, it explained why he just is obsessed with control and power, how he's so manipulative, how he's literally pulling the strings and ruling above like he is a god. and it explained all of that. And that made him such an incredible villain. He's been the best villain. I've seen this a little bit every now and then, but I now agree that he's been the best villain so far in One Piece. Those are my thoughts on, like, I guess the first half of the second half, where all of the hierarchs get taken down. And now it goes into Dofi's final fight, where Law and Luffy finally reach him. Here is where we learn all of Law's backstory and why he holds such a grudge against Dofi and just wants to take Dofi down. Law's backstory is so devastating, and at the end of it, it just made me like Law even more than I did, because I now understand him. I now understand all of his motives. But even from the get-go, starting out in this town, this was the White Lead town, and it turned out that this whole town was just a mine for lead, and everything around them, the whole town, was covered in lead. That, of course, led to disease. Straight up, Law's whole family was either killed by the lead poisoning or killed by a marine because they quarantined off the whole town. They thought it was infectious, so that would spread elsewhere. They locked everyone up in the town. So his whole family has now been killed, and there's that scene where he says goodbye to all of his classmates because the teacher is saying how she's found someone that will lead them out. And then he, in his panic, is running out of the town and sees all of his friends' dead bodies on the ground. Oh, man, that was awful. That was so sad, so heartbreaking for Law. No wonder he would be so traumatized in that moment. He manages to get out of his village and ends up where Dofi's family is, and he's now trying his hardest to get accepted by the family because he just wants to destroy everything. He's an angry little kid. He's traumatized by his family and his whole village just burning to the ground. He's now sick with the lead poisoning, so he only has 3 years to live. He's an angry little kid. He just wants to see everything burn, and I completely understand that. And that was just so sad to me. And that's where we meet Corazon, who is Dofi's brother, Rocinante. And as I was saying before, Corazon is such a stark difference from Dofi. He is awkward, he's clumsy, he's just weirdly wholesome and quiet, as opposed to Dofi, who is a overpowering, over-arrogant kind of being. Corazon learns that Law has the D in his name and then tries to warn him to get away from Dofi because it'll end up him being killed. And he kind of, I think that he forms some kind of like bond with him in that moment. He just like sees this little kid and he sees his trauma and he just wants to help him. He has such a kind heart that he just sees him and is like, I just need to help this kid get out. So then he kidnaps Law on this long journey trying to find a cure for Law's lead disease, but no hospitals will try and take him in or try and investigate what's going on because they think that it's some contagious disease. So Corazon spent like 6 months trying to find a cure for Law. This little kid, Law, is just so cute and so, it was just like pulling at my heartstrings that whole time. The fact that Corazon just wanted to protect the Law and the bond that they were forming. Finally, Corazon finds out that the op fruit is going to be on a certain island, and this fruit should hopefully cure Law. So of course he devises this plan to try and get a hold of this op fruit. But Corazon didn't make it out alive, and in trying to protect Law, he got him the fruit, but he couldn't make it. Dofi caught him and shot him, his own brother, because he's a psychopath. That scene though, guys, when he was just like, I love you, it really stabs me in the heart. Like, I'm actually like getting emotional thinking about it now. That was just the saddest freaking thing that could have happened. I just really wish that Corazon could have made it out and that they just could have lived happily ever after. It was also revealed that he was a Marine the whole time and he was like a double agent trying to take Dofi down. And he was taken in by Sengoku at the start. He was like washed up and he took him in, and he had just the kindest heart. He is just the purest soul. And what happened to him is an outrage. And because of that, Dofi needed to take him down. Luffy and Law just needed to take him down at that point. Everything does make so much sense now with Law why he's so angry all the time and why he holds so much resentment. It's because of all this trauma that he's been through. He lost his whole family. He finally had this bond with someone who he could then call his family and then lost them. No wonder he just wants to take Doflamingo down so bad. Before Luffy could enter the battle with Doflamingo, he had like this mini battle with Bellamy. It's crazy Bellamy being reintroduced and just like seeing him here when he was introduced so long ago. We saw him so long ago. But it was also interesting seeing the conflict that he had. He had idolized Doflamingo for all of his life, and then now he's seen how Doflamingo just does not care about him. And then now he idolizes a new person in Luffy, but he can't go back, and he can't go back on what he's done and what he said with him following Doflamingo. So he's like has this like internal struggle of what he should do, and he sticks with just fighting for Doflamingo. Then finally the last main battle with Luffy and Doflamingo begins, and I actually feel like this was quite short. I think maybe compared to a lot of the other battles that were really long and they dragged on for quite a long time, it kind of felt like they started their battle, they had a bit of like a back and forth, and then all of a sudden Luffy was in gear 4 and he was like super strong. I don't know, what did you guys think? Did you feel like it just happened or is it just because all the other battles were so long and it was a bit of a build up, I guess? Luffy and Doflamingo had a bit of a history of going back and forth, so it needed to come to this time. It was just like it was time to take Doflamingo down. Doflamingo's last attack was pretty cool, where his devil fruit entered a new realm. I forgot what it was called, but it just like all of the strings covered every single thing that he touched, and they were just like really powerful. But Luffy, he was pretty strong in gear 4. It was cool seeing gear 4 for the first time. It's a funny one that he's just constantly bouncing up and down, but she's just so strong, and he's like snake move. But Doflamingo is so insanely strong when he took Luffy's punch and then managed to sew all of his organs like back together with his string and just keep going. It's like, what? How is he still standing after all that? And he is also a really big guy. Like he's massive, so he's big and he's really strong. Then there was this halfway mark in the middle of their fight where Luffy just had to recuperate after being in gear 4 and Doflamingo was coming back too. And then that's when it segued into Sabo, and Sabo came back on the screen and we get to see a bit more of him and his backstory. Sabo is so strong. I was not expecting him to be that strong, to be honest. I actually didn't know what to expect when he came back, but he was strong before with his like dragon claws. I tried to do it. I can do it. I tried to do it the other day. Yeah, he came back so strong. And yeah, he was powerful before with his moves, but now that he had the flame fruit, it was like he was 8 in a way, but maybe, on the same level. Like I guess he's the chief of staff, so he's the second person in the Revolutionary Army, so it's got to be some kind of strong. Isho, both of them fighting. Isho was like, no, I don't want to keep fighting you, so it just stopped, but it showcased how he was able to take down an admiral and take down some pretty powerful people. It was cool finally seeing where Sabo ended up and what happened to him, why he didn't remember the fact that Luffy was alive and that he could go see him, and going back into him training for the Revolutionary Army and the fact that Dragon took him in. It's pretty interesting, the fact that Dragon took him in. I wonder if he knew about Sabo and Luffy, if they were brothers. I don't know. They kind of made out that he didn't know who he was, but I don't really know much about Dragon just yet. But yeah, that he was training in the army, obviously became really strong, became the second in the whole army. And then finally one day when he saw Ace's death in the newspaper, that's when he remembered everything. And then he was just like overstricken with grief and shock at all of his memories are coming back. And then that's when he was like, I need to go find Luffy. That was a good way to bring him back into the story. But it made me so happy, the fact that Sabo is alive, so Luffy now has a brother that can be there and is alive and that will look after him. But it was funny how at the end he was talking to the Straw Hats and he said the same thing as Ace, like Luffy is a handful. I thought that was cool how they segued that in. After that, Luffy came back to and took Dofi down with the King Kong punch, and that was the final blow to Dofi to take him down. That was a very satisfying moment, seeing Dofi just now completely defeated. There's nothing that he can go do or no way he can go. It took down the rest of Dressrosa, the last buildings that were standing, but he managed to take it down, and now he is also a savior. I guess everyone around in the town now see Luffy as just the hero. One character I feel like I also just want to discuss a little bit is Isho's character. I feel like from the start he's been a little bit conflicted. Like I said in the first one how he's kind of was siding with Dofi, but I felt like there was some kind of ulterior motive there. And in the second half, that shone through a bit more, and he was kind of conflicting with morality and whether he should be following the Marines or whether he should be helping Luffy and the pirates, because they literally saved the whole of Dressrosa. And in the end, he let his more moral side take over instead of following the authority, and that was really cool. I loved seeing that in his character. And that is also a theme that is shown a little bit throughout, where a lot of the Marines see what the top admirals and what the world government is doing, that it's immoral. A lot of the stuff they're doing doesn't help the people, whereas some of these pirates are actually helping people, and like Luffy, saving a whole country. This is again explored with Isho's character. But in saying that, he is also so powerful. His devil fruit power is so cool, where he can literally just bring an asteroid down, and he literally lifted all of the debris up in the air in Dressrosa to come tumbling down on Luffy, but he didn't in the end, as like a parting gift. And the way that they ended off this arc with Luffy taking Rebecca to Kyros because Kyros was going to leave, it was so heartfelt to see Rebecca just step down from becoming a princess and just wanting to be with her dad, be with the toy soldier, live with him. That was just so sweet, especially at the end where all of the 7 pirate crews swore allegiance to Luffy. That was great. His, like, what was it, 5,600 pirates all like within Luffy's fleet. He's now becoming the king of pirates. But also the fact that he was just refused. He was like flat out, no, I don't want you guys to swear your allegiance to me. That highlighted that he just wants freedom. He just wants freedom for everyone. He wants everyone to just be liberated. And that is like the reason why he wants to become the Pirate King. That was a really special moment. I feel like that was a really pivotal moment in One Piece. They all swore allegiance anyway. So now he's got the beautiful pirates with Cavendish, Bartow Club with Bartolomeo. You've got the Happo Navy with Sai. They've got the Edio Pirates with Edio. Then they've got the Tantata Pirates with Leo, who actually, that was a really cute little thing that they had with Mancherry, who Mancherry is like the princess and she can heal everyone, like she can heal people. She's so cute. She's such a cute little person. And then you've got the New Giant Warriors with Haradine as their leader, and then the Yonta Mario Grand Fleet with Olympus, which is where they had the banquet on the big ship. They have to have a banquet at the end of every single saga. And with these 7 pirate crews, it really highlights Luffy's ability to get people to follow him without him even asking them to. Like, he doesn't want them to or try and get them to, but they will always somehow become his allies. And that's something that Mihawk has said pretty early on during the Marineford arc, is that like one of his greatest abilities is that he's able to get people around him, even if they're his enemies at the start, they're able to make him his allies. Those are my thoughts on the second half of Dressrosa, which is definitely the better half of Dressrosa, and a lot happened. But I will say, I've heard so much about the pacing in Dressrosa, how it was quite slow. And I can get that. The Colosseum fights just went on for ages, and some of the fights just took way too long. And then it kind of got to the end and things were just happening and they were just like going. But maybe it's because I watched every single episode within a few weeks back to back. I didn't feel like the pacing was so slow or so off. So I think that's why. Because when you watch episodes back to back, you don't really notice it as much. Well, for me, at least. Now I feel like I'm getting right into the main part of One Piece, like the big second half, the crescendo. I feel like I'm well into it now. I'm going to meet all of the emperors a bit more and get into, all the new animation and everything else getting introduced. So I'm so excited for the next arc. Let me know what your favorite parts are in this arc and also your overall thoughts on the whole arc. I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you all have a really great day, night, whatever it is over there, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.